So I left on, one of the episodes.
You would most likely would not gonna be able to, would you?
You know what? I do have to change the audio. Hold on 1 minute.
All on leave.
Oh, cool.
So,
Great, and
so, yeah, Carl wasn't in charge of. She helped me there when I find it. That's where I'm. That's where I'm.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that sounded like it was all working properly. If anyone joins remotely, they probably aren't. However, we do the minutes from the tape, so. Our administrator in our office has been
so.
kind enough to do them during the day right now. Me and Ashley
So Ashley's in your office.
is in our office. She's the administrator. She took over for Fran. She does other minutes and stuff, so I mean, I've had her been doing them during the workday as part of her tasks, but that's only when we're free enough. Otherwise, I end up doing them. Sometimes Alexa, the assistant planner, does them. But we really do need somebody, but as I understand, there's a shortage of secretary, of recording secretaries on other commissions as well. So.
It has to be someone that already works for the town.
No, absolutely not. It makes it easier. Like when Marlo was here, it made it so much easier because she had easy access to any
Right.
changes in email and everything else. But no. As a matter of fact, other, yeah, Yeah. they should contact Kate's office.
Yeah,
The town clerk handles all
I'm not a minutes.
things. Okay, so we're recording
Yes.
and we're set to go.
All the meeting at. 6:37.
6:36 I have on
Okay.
the computer.
6:30.
Okay, and I'm just gonna pull up the roll and that'll make my life easier if I just do it straight off that.
Okay.
Oh, where'd it go? There it is. Nope. Sorry. Brandon Pete is not present. Tom Heisler, Guy Hoffman, chairman.
Present.
Carl Lewis asks to be excused. Karen Pagliaro, Mary Catherine LaRose. And alternate Jason Pelletier is also not present. And you have a quorum with the 4 in the room.
And. Not seeing anybody here or on.
No, we have
this
no,
call, so we have no audience of citizens. Move to the approval of minutes. Do you have a?
I have a question.
a copy of the minutes.
Yeah,
I
you didn't just
do
put it up.
not.
So typically, my question is, typically, if you're not present at the meeting, how can you approve the minutes?
So it should be majority of the people at the meeting that
So we
would
can't
approve the minutes, so
Approve it,
No, that we're at that.
meeting.
at that meeting,
So
You're three, I guess we
we
could.
have three, yeah.
yes.
But we had,
Okay.
we had,
So I didn't count it right.
we had four votes, or, no, we had, okay. We
You
had,
had five, we had five.
yeah, so we had three.
Okay, so I didn't count them right, sorry.
Basically, we, we approve two expenditures. um, Which emptied out, as far as we could tell, emptied out all of our money for last fiscal year.
I'm afraid if I fix that, my whole thing might go, so. Yeah, that was basically the meeting was, to, allow the funds from public education for the Lamentation Mountain Study. And then the CFPA trail work, they needed gravel for some work at Ragged Mountain was the remainder of the funds.
Any comments on? A motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Yeah. All in favor?
Hi.
The three of us that were there.
Thank you.
Just as a quick note, do you know if we ended up coming up with the full 600?
I think it was just short of that. So Grounds actually submitted the bill. And now that we have Ashley as the admin in our office, she does a great job of not getting me in some of the nitty gritty. But I don't
Okay.
believe there's anything left in that PO. The last time I checked, I don't remember seeing it in the list of funds. So that was great that, because the last couple of years, we haven't been able to get billing in time and the Lamentation Mountain Study. Well, I'll wait for that turn.
Yeah.
Till you ask me about it.
Yeah. So move on to commission business and public land for trail information. First one up is the Lamentation Mountain Study.
So, CROG, the Council of Governments that the town is, participates in, has, engaged the consultant Tyke and Bond to do the consulting work for the Lamentation Mountain Study that will be happening jointly with Middletown and Meriden, and they've begun their work, and our share of the payment was made to that fund for them to be paid for the work. So, yeah, which was part of, the agreement that they would, the money would be secured.
Been retired for a while, so I'm not sure. I didn't know of anybody that's working.
For Tyke and Bond.
Yeah, but
Is it
they-
Tyke?
They
Tyke?
have a history of
Tyke.
project and do, and a good reputation, so.
Yeah, they had, a little, a little concerned with the RFPs coming in, or RFQs that came in, but then they did some lobbying to get a couple of firms to be engaged, and they came out on top. They were the choice, and so we have regular meetings with the COG to facilitate and see what's happening, et cetera. I imagine that they may be a little less now that the consultants engaged. We'll probably not have them as frequently as we had them to do the startup. But pretty excited about that work, and Deep's involved in giving their feedback, as well as the land trust and others. So hopefully it'll result in a really good study that lays out a really great plan for both adding trails and access, as well as restoration, and making sure that there is facilities or trails or access in place in case there's another fire or anything else up there too. And get the underbrush growing again. Yeah.
Seeing what they come up with. In the second, number two is the Connecticut Trail Finder website.
Yeah, so we've been, Jim mostly, Mahoney has, actually, let me just give this little quick shout out to Jim. Jim has scaled back again his, work with the town. He'll be doing a lot less hours. He's, pretty much retired, but he's been a consultant for the town for a while. Why he's not joining our meetings anymore and whatnot, but he's down to managing a couple of projects now. But he has been working, on getting the trails onto the Canner, and I think that's what it's called, and the Connecticut Trail Finder website. And if I can bring this one up. CT. Yes, there we go. There. So you can see, if you look at this is the main site. We do have the link straight to Berlin, which I also got, but if we pull this up, you can see the trails that are on there already, and I actually intended to make a print of this for everyone, but I only made the one print. Those are the 4 trails for Berlin that are in there now, and I think it was Hatchery Brook that we just did this week. Let me just double check that that's the one you're gonna see. So this is what you're pulled to if you go to the website, and you see just how just nice that is. It looks really professional. It looks really nice. It's informative. It helps people to really understand real-time weather, etc. So hikers have information that is up to the minute and useful to the technology that they're used to using now, going to different trails throughout the state and even the country. What you expect is much different. It's just, they had us look at it, play with it, try to be a user. And I think it's really, really good. Then you get, now here we have the base map itself with the trails in it, and then you can just zoom in and see where the parking is. Here you've got the parking lot on Chamberlain Highway, and then how the trails all loop together. For instance, here there was some discussion about because hikers have been involved too. I think Carl got a little bit involved, and I believe there was someone else that regularly hikes that's been involved too that I'm not as familiar with. But there's some looping here with ways you can get around depending on the season, so that was included. And I think it's a real great asset for the town to have that, and they're getting uploaded as we go.
That's great.
You're working on them all, and if you decide you're going somewhere, check it out. Maybe even in another town. If I can get to, let's see, let's look at the others.
But mostly for all the flags that are out there, are those, I mean, in other towns too. are
Yeah,
those-
that's what-
those kind of, sort of like the towns, hiking trails.
Yeah, I think those are the ones that have been uploaded.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, with CFPA too, and those are the ones that have been uploaded so that you can click on them and get the link. So I was just gonna click on the one for Beckley Quarry, I think, yeah. Actually, Pistol Creek, I think, is a little more, I think that shows both the paved paths and not. So it's it gives that little bit more, or a different kind of information. You can see that there. They haven't done the other side of the road though.
Quick question, as far, I see that it's got photos, are they gonna try to fill those in, or is that up to us potentially to submit? If we want,
I
if we
think-
wanted
I
something more than
think
that.
people can add a photo.
Oh.
I think that's what you can do on Trail Finder, is if you're a hiker, I think you
Okay,
could.
you can.
Oh, I
actually-
guess, yeah, if you're a user,
Yeah.
it's, you've gotta be a user.
So
So-
we could just, as a user, add some.
Possibly, if not, I'm sure we could
Yeah.
send them to them if needed.
If this is, gets a lot of use, might
Yes,
be nice for us
yeah,
to
call attention to
Oh.
it by having the,
have some,
yeah.
a variety of pictures and,
Mhm,
you know, of.
certainly.
What was cool too with Mr. Creek, it had like, how it was accessible.
Yes.
That's really nice.
That's why I brought that one up. I wanted to call that specifically to your attention, that it really talks about the fact that there's accessibility, and like I said, and it can be updated. One of the main contacts is also Park and Recs department, because they do a lot of the grounds, works closely with them as well. And so and they're much more interactive with their website than we are. So if they generate out information, I am sure it will easily get transferred between the departments so that we can get it on, you know, notify Connecticut Trail Finder to put that on any new information we have. So that's the exciting news of the day. And again, along with that, and I'm just gonna naturally fall into the CFPA, which is the next item on your agenda for their trail work. They've just been doing some, you know, their typical spring, summer cleanup, trail work, et cetera, as you stated, noted from last month's minutes, you know, working on repairs and other things too. I think we mentioned at a previous meeting that the trail on Summit Wood had been relocated, because that was done a number of months ago, and I think you've met since that happened. To behind the houses, or to the east of the houses on town property, as opposed to going down the road and then through someone's, on the edge of someone's property. So that's been a real positive as well. And while I shared that screen, I didn't do it on our video, so I'm just doing that for the record. It did get shared. But no one is participating remotely. But it was the ConnecticutTrailFinder.com/trails website.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a nice tool for trail
Oh, yeah.
finder for the town, but also just for in the state.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or even upstate or something.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you're an avid hiker, I know several. I'm not. I want to be, but I'm not. Never can seem to get myself there. But I do know a lot of people that use the websites like that, so that they can, you know, they see maybe something on the state map or on somewhere, and they go, huh, what do I do now? Or what, give me more information. And then they go to a website like Trail Finder and access things, whether they're, again, visiting, traveling, or if they're a local, but they're tired of the mountain they usually would go on.
Ready for community garden?
So the community garden has been really active. We actually have had, you know, the couple of little blips we've had have ended up being resolved. We had, a plot that seemed, not to have had any action yet this year, and there was some concern that that plot was abandoned, and, we had difficulty initially notifying the person. There is a process on the, or rather, there's a rule with regard to abandonment of your garden and noticing and sending, notification, et cetera, in the garden rules. But there really isn't a designated timeline or anything of that nature in the rules. So, you know, kind of up to the discussion with the garden coordinator, and we were gonna then bring it to you this week, but they've worked on the plot and the loops. We did get hold of them via the phone, and I think that's how Ashley got hold of them. And the garden was worked on, so that's kind of a not starter. The question, I guess, kind of lingers if the commission wants to put a timeline on when somebody needs to garden. You know, my initial thoughts in this particular year is that timing wise, you know, most of the weekends, it's rained until the last 1, 2 weekends.
Yeah.
They've been pretty horrible weather on the weekends, so if that is your limited time you're available to go there, maybe you got a late start gardening. Or maybe you didn't, you know, or maybe something else happened, and you know, the last thing on your mind is contact town hall, I'm not going to garden. You know, it may not be the top priority if something else is going on in your life to contact us. So, so some guidance there, or if you want to have it as a discussion in the future, that may be something that you want to consider.
Yeah, I agree.
We
Okay.
can,
Discuss it.
yeah.
You know, I have spent a lot of time working on the rules. So
Yes,
if you want to forward them to me, I could review them for you and,
okay,
you know, do you mind?
No.
Okay.
That's great.
I remember rewriting.
I'm sure his sister had a crap.
Out of the country so much now. She wasn't happy with doing the garden like I was. Yeah. She travels all over the place. Just have to email me.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
cannot keep them.
no, and I believe they're on the website as well, in case that gets lost in the shuffle.
Thank you.
Or it's not at the time when you're thinking about it. Maybe you don't have email, but you have, access to the internet. That's something that I like to let people know, but I believe we did not take it down from the website. I think it sits there, under the garden. And I believe that's under Conservation Commission. Again, I don't go in through the website a lot, so I have to remind myself of the path to take. Well, I get there by going straight to the file. So, one of the other things, was a couple of the gardeners, weren't staying within the dimensions of their garden.
Oh,
But
that's against the rules too.
after a visit to the garden, we discovered that, so the garden was established somewhere around 2010, 2012, 2009, you know, somewhere around the 2010s starting. I'm not sure exactly when of the year, but at that time, it appears as though each garden was marked out with timbers that it showed its edges and posts at each corner, or some sort of delineation at each corner, and then a stake with a piece of wood on it that said the plot number. This year, you know, some people were having trouble finding their plots, you know, nobody had realized that these things had deteriorated over that we're guesstimate a 15-year period, which is logical. The wood used, it's my understanding, is always eco-friendly, so it's not pressure treated wood, it's not, all the things that would make it last longer, but still 15 years is pretty healthy amount of time for a piece of wood. So we did, use, actually, I'm not even sure we needed to use any supply money, because if you recall, last year you authorized supplies for the garden up to a certain amount. So they did, with us and grounds, put together an idea how to make the stakes. I actually found one of the old ones, which was it's very similar to it, was what I envisioned for the plot markers. Woody's crew put some together for each plot, and those got delivered with, the gardeners are, I believe, still in the process of painting them with the plot number. They're gonna do that work themselves. We're really trying to work hard to have the gardeners as engaged as possible. A few of them aren't really as able to be as involved as the initial gardeners were, that really wanted the garden to start with. Some of them, it's what they can do to keep up with their garden, but so we have those, and Woody and I discussed coming back to the commission for the funds to put in new boundaries of the gardens. The two plots that were encroaching on the walkways, once notified, were reduced back to their size, is the report. I got the report back. I didn't go back out after was informed that it was rectified, but that's something our office will check on. But that doesn't any longer seem to be a problem, and if they're marked, that should help. What I didn't think to put on here when I was making the agenda, being it's a new year, so I just wanted to make sure it didn't show me a participant, attendee on the side. Now that we've switched to webinars, people appear as attendees instead of on the list immediately. I just wanted to make sure somebody hadn't joined. But where was I? The garden. Oh, so last year you did authorize funds for maintenance of the garden. I didn't, with unforeseen circumstances, didn't check that number as I expected to today, to see what you had authorized in case we wanted to ask you to add it to the agenda. But either you can choose to do so, or at an upcoming meeting, we'll ask you to vote on whether or not to authorize staff to take out a PO for incidentals. It was for garden incidentals and maintenance items that came up. The tiller was a major purchase, so that was separate, but these were for when the new batteries are needed for the well, when maybe a hoe breaks and you need a new hoe or something in there.
But you
Garden.
don't know what is in the budget for the garden right now, you don't have the amount?
So the garden doesn't have its own budget
Oh, okay.
because it is I'm gonna get the terminology wrong because I'm not the finance person, but it's an ongoing fund for the garden. It's separate. It's not the budget. It
Okay.
is
But do we have
from
to-
the, again, I'm sorry, just because I
maybe
unexpectedly
just wait
was
till-
off today. I didn't check it out.
That's and,
That's fair.
and
So
you can
have
talk
to
about
bring
we can talk about the rules. We can-
Yeah,
how we
exactly.
we'll have
Put the agenda.
on the agenda for kind of near the end of the season.
Perfect.
Okay, so if anything comes up, I'll contact the commission beforehand. What I'm concerned with is if some incidental comes up over the summer that was on, because those were the unforeseen things break.
Yeah.
And so that's the garden. It's working really well. They had a cleanup day. It got postponed, but I think they ended up having it. They've planted some new Yeah, it actually was gonna overlap with the bike race.
Oh, wow.
So but they talked to each other about, but they ended up, I believe, canceling for that day anyway and going for the next weekend. And then they've planted some pollinators, the youth garden for with St. Paul's Church and Upbeat, is growing their vegetables to, participate in the, food pantry through social services. They did that again this year, so a lot of, the garden mostly running along smoothly. Even the glitches we've had got rectified and without a lot of drama, which is nice. I guess so we have a wait list for the first time.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean,
But
nice,
it's
but
one
nice.
or two people. It's not, and we haven't had a wait list. We've had vacant gardens. So there's, some questioning whether the garden could be expanded. I think it's, probably in the best interest of the town to kind of wait and see how the garden goes for
Especially.
a
the
good
fence
year,
that
but
you
there's
put
also be some expense and some grading and some other things that
Yeah.
that
Certainly
might
talked about that.
might be needed.
'Cause
Yeah.
we had a few
We had wait lists before.
before, and then
Yeah.
we kind of had
Then
a
we had-
drop off.
Right, right.
And then we were offering up one or two.
Like if somebody.
Vacant
there was a
ones
vacant
that-
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had people that took them or
Right.
other.
And I think we
towns
even
that
had
didn't-
where we
Yeah.
had a vacant one to start with. So somebody took a second one.
Yeah.
But now somebody else came along and asked if they could garden. So the wait list started
Yeah.
later to the best of my knowledge. So again, I haven't seen it be a backlog of people,
Yeah.
which was what,
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
a huge
Exactly.
expense thing and,
Yeah.
you know,
It is worth it.
yeah.
so
Yeah,
at this
I-
point, at this point, you're good with pausing that for now and,
Yeah.
and then again, and of course they can ask to revisit it, but
Yeah.
that was my advice as well. Is,
I guess the other way we can tackle it is maybe consider making water plots smaller.
And there are some larger plots, there's
Yeah.
a few different sizes, so you
Yeah.
could do that. Like some of the larger plots didn't have a thing in the middle, and you could cut it in, not
Mhm.
cut it in half, but put it in half, so there'd be
Yeah.
two instead of one. So we could always do that too, so you're right.
there might be other options.
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
and you have to look at the plot plan, I used to work on that all the time. So that's another thing to
and
look at.
then it's, if we had a big increase in interest,
Mhm.
you almost think, I know that there'd be logistical problem, but almost think that you would want to fence off another section
Right,
instead of, maybe with just an opening
yeah,
rather than
right.
trying to change the
Oh.
whole,
Yeah,
the whole
It's
thing.
weird,
So
too.
we'd have to think about how
Yeah.
to.
Cause I also wondered if there would even be more interest if there was another location for a garden. I mean, you'd have to have those volunteers that wanted to
Right.
establish a garden, but whether
Right.
or not another piece of property would be, would allow people in a different area of town to have easy access. If you live, say, I mean, that's in the west corner of town. So if you live up, in East Berlin, you may say, well, I can't drive 15 minutes to get over there and garden after work and then get back again. Is there other
Yeah.
options? So one of my thoughts was if is interest in more garden plots. Is that the best? Yeah, it is.
See, I
It
was
is, and
interested when
it's,
it started, but I took over
Yeah.
pretty quickly. I don't remember when I took over the
Yeah,
garden.
you took-
I think it was gone for several
Yes.
years. It was going along for several years and the gentleman, oh, that's all?
Yeah,
Really?
I've got it, that,
right,
but I was gonna say, I thought she was, maybe 2 or 3 years.
yeah, and then I took over until,
And they had
2017.
very, in my recollection, and I think I was only in town part-time at that point. But my recollection is there were a couple of people who were very physically involved in farming and landscape, and that really put in the
Yeah,
muscle
that
and
was
work
another
as garden
Very good start.
volunteers as opposed to we're trying again to shift the reliance of the gardeners back to themselves
Yeah.
because our grounds crew really can't.
No.
It can't handle it, and it wasn't set up for the grounds crew to be using their time in that manner. We have a lot of town property.
right,
No.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
was the shares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it'd be good to have, and often we do, end of the year.
We would talk
the-
about it.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
we would
agree.
cover and take care of a number of the issues.
Ask the ones who have garden plots, if they intend to return, is there any type of?
So what,
we get at the end?
if they haven't changed it, what would happen is, you are never guaranteed the exact plot, so they weren't supposed to like. Put in like garlic,
Reservation.
yeah, and it's really first come, first served, so it depends on when you.
But I mean, I'm just, is there any idea that you get some information from them that they might even? On it, I mean, just a commitment on either side.
We-
Just-
We can kind of see the pattern.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
are a lot of the same names and
Yeah.
faces, and there usually is an early bird deadline.
Yeah.
So that has
Yeah.
changed. There was some discussion a couple of years ago
Yeah.
about whether that should or shouldn't be happening, and
The current.
and
gardeners get asked
the
before
curtain
that.
gardeners get.
Yeah, I get it.
To pick a first plot, one plot.
Right,
And then for any additional plots, they're in line with anybody else.
that's cool. Oh,
But yeah, and many have amended the garden, even the garden coordinator, she's had her same plot for a number of years. They've that kind of,
you always try to become.
are invested in in the plot because of the soil that's
Yeah.
happened with what you've planted.
Yeah,
So, but they all have the same rules for what they can use and can't use as far as
Fertilizer.
fertilize, yeah, that's really laid out quite explicitly in the rules.
And insecticides.
I remember too, there was some crazy thing about, you can't have like, you can't plant zucchini because it grows too. I mean, it was so ridiculous, I don't know if it's still there, but I was like, really? It's pretty funny,
They do take over.
right, right.
Up here, I'm pulling up, so just so you get an idea of the number of rules.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a
God.
ton.
That's, we've made the page, we've made the font tighter and tighter.
Yes,
I'm
So it's
trying
one
to get
page?
it. We did, this year, due to a couple of concerns, I'll say, pull out a couple of the rules and, they're posted on the inside of the shed door. And because some of these rules are about getting your garden and the end and the beginning, others are about operation of the garden itself. So we pulled those so that they're readily available right on at the garden. Because half the people sign it and turn it in and don't
So you
look at it
can't-
again. I don't want to say half the people.
You're not supposed to give anything to the lot, so they go water your.
Right, but it's open different times and, there are other people there. You can always talk to one of the other gardeners. It really is,
And they know.
the idea is it's a community garden, so they should be creating a community amongst themselves and work cooperatively together on who needs what and
Which
who
is-
can
is-
help.
It's nice, you know. Much work at Karen as you did. And it's nice and I think the right way to run it now, to
Right.
have. The.
A gardener.
And to essentially kind
Right,
of pass along the day-to-day stuff, because
Right.
you were getting the little complaints between
Yeah.
gardeners. And so,
So again, we don't want to curse ourselves, but we get a lot less calls in our office than we got, say, 2 to 3 years ago. There was one summer with the phone was almost on speed dial.
yeah,
And it's been a really, and that's why, you know, we've given kudos to Carol on a number of occasions because she really
So Carol's there?
tries. Yes, she is there a lot. Yep. She has one of the larger plots, I believe, and she gardens and she's very, you know, a gardener. That's the garden coordinator and that's the way it was designed. Or
Great.
established.
keep any disagreements or things within the garden group.
Yeah,
now.
and you know, reaches out when there are issues to both myself and,
Just. If you plant squash next to cucumbers, they will cross pollinate. And you'll end up getting squashy kind of looking cucumbers. I was wondering why my cucumbers were big fat yellow things.
oh,
And they tasted all right. Now I'm not doing that anymore. Now they're my fault.
no hybrids for you. Okay?
Exactly.
And just one last thing, I think. Close to being done, but that just, for your benefit, Mary Karen, that because of the way that the property was acquired. We had a state grant for that, so they allow things like the gardens, but some of the rules and different things had that, we had that, had to follow with what
You're getting a grant, there's always some
some, yeah,
carrots or something.
so.
And really,
With the open space, grant with the state, that was being. Because we thought it was a good idea and it was something that. You can do, but there are lots of things that you can't do on the open space grant properties. Great. So we didn't end up with anything added for planning and zoning commission?
No, we have a couple of, we have a new text amendment. That we just got in last week, so it will be on, we're anticipating scheduling it for the first meeting in. July, now it's July, the first meeting in August. Summer is flying, P and Z never skips meetings,
No, but
Oh.
P and Z doesn't.
P and Z, so. They're gonna have a public hearing for, so what that text amendment is it's to allow. The intent is to allow a single house as accessory to a farm. A single dwelling unit or a single home. As an accessory use to a farm that's on a minimum of 10 acres. You know, farming is a minimum of 10 acres. That's the way the farm regs are written. And this would allow houses on those parcels, because there are parcels along the Chamberlain Highway that are in the POD zone, which doesn't allow residential. Other farms are in residential zones, so they can have a house on whatever the zone is, but
Never
Fine, no.
that you could have a farm with a.
right, we have parcels that are just farmed, and that's because the POD zone allows for other types of uses. So this amendment is hoping to follow what was one of the recommendations in the POCD, but one of the owners has proposed it. And so to facilitate sale of their multiple parcels, and that one has a house, but the other parcels don't have a house. So That'll change, if they're approved, it'll change Chamberlain Highway a little. We understand there may be someone else coming in that is interested in also allowing accessory dwelling unit with that house. As you would be able to do in a single family, in any of our residential, or most of our residential zones. You can have a subordinate accessory unit as well, so. It's the applicant is the attorney for, or actually, I think they signed it. Signed the application, the Fontanellas, for their parcels, because their parcels are for sale. But the parcel with the house on it is long and narrow, and then there's another house kind of alongside of it, that's its own parcel on a very small parcel comparatively. And then they have another strip that goes
I didn't know they
behind
were
that
all
house.
separate. I didn't know they were all
That is
separate.
another, oh, well over 10 acres, I think, in total, they have 27 acres.
One that's right on Chamberlain, right on the road.
The old house,
Yeah,
yes,
didn't they separate that out from the land to try to sell it separately?
that they don't have a subdivision, they have, it's, one property that goes back from the house that includes the barns, and then, and it's, yes, that's well, it's that's non-conforming, but it's also a farm, because it is a farm.
They had to sell them separately from the land.
They might have tried to sell the one parcel. Again, we don't watch the real estate sales, so that's a little, find it,
There
it's.
was there, Kensington Road.
Yeah.
Number 38 acres. So-
That's the farm, Black Angus Farm, that's right down the street, right here.
Yeah, it was, where the goats were, the goats are not there anymore.
I think there were goats there, I do think you're correct,
Oh,
but that was some time ago, yeah, but I mean, the parcel.
Is that
Going that way. towards north.
Kensington?
So to come out of the driveway for town hall, take a right past Robbins, before you get to Norton Road, there's a farm, right? And the farm actually loops up and actually has frontage on Norton Road as
Yeah.
well, about where the curve is that goes like that.
Put New development, do you remember we had talked about the open space?
Yep.
So they're next to each other, which is pretty
So
interesting.
they sold the.
No, it is that land.
There's two, it's all of it, so because there's a house.
So if I may,
Yeah,
on the screen, I'm showing you Fontanella's property to start with, which is this piece is the old house, that's right there. And that's the homestead, I guess you'd say. And so what was that? That's 10 acres lit up there. And then this is also theirs, which is an additional 17 acres, but it is a vacant, farmland parcel. That's a small house that was carved off many years ago. I assume was carved off. Yeah, it's 46A, so it was, probably, the first cut of the property. I don't remember. At one time I looked at it, but again, so they're looking to sell this
Yeah.
and this.
And they wanna be able to have. Put
A house out, up here, so that, and then farm, so that the person running the farm can live there as well. But out of interest of the whole thing, so then this parcel, and I just zoomed out just a little bit, is the H2O farm that's being built. But just north of it is another parcel that's Bostrom's, that's
Yep.
also for sale.
Is it?
It's for sale. Now, that's only 4.8 acres, so, it wouldn't fit that eligibility, but it's for sale. And this one, which is the old Sunny Borders with the greenhouses on it, has you know, it's sold several times over the last few years, and that is also again for sale. And that's 14 acres. That's the one that the town does have the easement across for parking back here, to get up into these trails. And we're having enforcement action to get that open, but they're, you know, out of the area, and it's been a little bit difficult to pursue that. Again, we're still hoping that that trail, that easement, by cooperation with the owners, gets moved to here. Because Mr. Grimm, who has the farm up here, has already created a parking area here so that, you know, people could park right up along the road instead of drive through a business establishment to park in the back. And that's really been the concern, with most of the people looking at that, property. So if they can all cooperate, those weren't easements required by the town, they were given to the town, they are ours. You know, the easement to the town, however, it wasn't a requirement of a division or some action
Right.
of the town, so.
But
But it was does have more of a history than just out of. There's a reason we got it, I just don't know all the nuances of that. But it wasn't part of a subdivision as far as I know, or any of that nature. So then the one you were just asked, was Black Angus. So let me go zoom over to there. Oh, right here, it's gonna be. Yes. So that's it. So let me zoom in on it so you can actually see it. So I'm zooming into 680 Kensington Road, and as you can see, it comes out to Kensington Road. This is where the barn is and whatnot, but it also comes out to Norton Road here, has a little blip of a house that's also carved out of probably that lot. Is that lot 34 or it's lot 33? And then, so, no, I believe it's the sale finally went through. I think the family still owned it. And it was in the estate or what have you. And so the proposed open space subdivision went through, I'm assuming it went through P and Z for a concept plan as to whether they go with a open space or a conventional subdivision. But if not, they'd have to still do that process. It then went through wetlands a number of years ago for the open space subdivision, back in the 20 teens. And we understand now with the sale having been finalized, that our understanding is they'll be coming in with the subdivision for planning and zoning commission soon.
well,
What soon? I don't know.
I don't remember what that looks like. The plan.
Again, well, we haven't gotten an application, so I don't have that
Well,
information.
but I mean,
Wetlands
if
saw
we're gonna
it.
go back to something that they did in 2016,
Right.
You probably didn't see it. You wouldn't have seen it yet.
well, I mean, this is a
Yeah.
perfect property to be, to have a significant open space with it. It's got hatchery, it's got the brook going through it. It's the same brook that the pool used to
Yep, yeah.
dump out the chlorine into.
Did see
And
it.
I walked a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because I had to do, I worked on 2 fish kills relating to the pool. It's a natural area that you're talking about, one of the few places in town where there's native trout. I mean, we're not getting stock.
It's you. So that they can have an exit over there too.
Oh, okay. So I don't remember if any of that comes back, you know, like to the town and,
There's no. You know?
yeah. Yeah, I do remember something about access and stuff. But
Because I used to live here, one street over from here to, I remember going to, like, the house store.
But that's definitely, have that tiny little connector.
Yeah.
But it's the potential connection to that next.
But you don't have any idea of what the details of the subdivision that they're gonna put forward.
No, like I said, the plan was approved by wetlands for that configured it as an open space subdivision. And what the open space subdivision does is, clusters that open space together in a substantial size with reduced lot sizes that can then be, generally closer to the road, create shorter roads so that you can leave more of the property in its natural state. So there is a configuration that is on record in the wetlands files. However, because of, application, to the best of my knowledge, was not made to planning and zoning commission, we don't have that, and, they would be coming back, or coming in for review by the planning and zoning commission for an, what I understand will be an open space subdivision. Again, that's based on the knowledge of what went through wetlands. Once, you never know what you'll actually see.
Yeah.
And that could be changes, but as we understand, it was, well, vetted by the applicants at the time they created it. They, went to a high level of design. Maybe not as far as they'd have to go with a planning and zoning approval, but they went, through a lot, certainly the wetlands.
Was that land zoned as a farm? Is there a
So,
zoning?
no, we don't have farms. We don't have a specific farm zone. So this is R 21, I think. Yeah, it's an R 21 zone. So 21,000 square foot lots if it was conventional subdivision. But smaller lots with the, I think these are less. Oh, no, it's not. Some of these are, I think,
You're on.
one of those. No, that's still, those are, yeah, those are, that's conventional, so I thought.
Open space.
Yeah, a portion of this is an open space subdivision. I'm just not exactly sure
Yeah.
the alignment. There aren't two, they're 21,000, they're half acre lots. Less than a half, yeah. So
Second biggest lot. on the
I'm not-
street.
right now, I'm not complete, yeah, okay, so actually here, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. This is R 43. It is R 43 zoning. I didn't see this down here, so it is an acre lots. This must be, we got a new GIS. And as you can see, their delineation isn't as, clear as it used to be. So this, I think this is the zone line. So this is R 43. So just like these where they are half acre, oh, that was an acre. Oh, okay.
It's over an acre.
But this one is a half. So there is a portion of the subdivision
That is.
that
Was open
was
space.
open space, and some of the open space back here got added.
And that little green thing goes to us.
Yeah, and then that's how it then connects into bicentennial. Thank you for forcing me to correct that, because it didn't make sense. I wasn't sure that was right. I was surprised it said R 21.
Yeah.
Our graphics have changed.
But I also have an easement in my backyard, a bunch of other neighbors too. Which I'm thrilled because it's all great trees and you can't see the neighbor behind me.
We could only convince everyone without a conservation easement that the trees are a great thing in their yards. We have a number of encroachment issues and restoration plans that, well, you saw a couple of them
Yeah.
and we have others. So,
The next. EOCD discussion, not much to discuss, or this meeting was canceled. We had to move it, and then we thought we had a time where we could have it, and then,
we ended up with a number of people that were not going to be
Yeah.
available.
so the next one is in October, so we missed that one. So I don't have a lot. I talked about like what I think our priorities are and everything, and I think that, Maureen brought up something at the last meeting. I think that about trying to having a structure
Mhm.
to the discussion. And I'm really, I've talked to another member or two about that we really think that what we need, instead of talking about general topics and stuff, every commission should have a top list of their priorities, and then anything else that falls under their, you know, purview on
Right.
that, you know, and listed in the P O C D. And give us an update. Have you made any progress on your key, you know, your top lists? Or was there progress made on something that wasn't the top, but still it's under the views? And we just need, I think, to make that kind of structure. To,
Right, to
To
keep
make-
each commission focused
Focused.
on,
if-
advancing the P O C D.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
goals of it,
Mhm.
or if something about the goals has changed within their purview of their commission, bring it to everyone else so that they can bring it back, so that town council, planning and zoning commission, the conservation commission, everybody
Yeah.
else is on the same page instead of, and working together.
Yeah, because we've talked about general issues early on, talking an awful lot about economic development and, you know, and what's happening, which is interesting stuff, but it's not necessarily helping us get an idea of, are we
Right.
making progress on implementation of the plan? So.
In regard to that,
You set
that
up as a
was what,
structure last time, I think.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that, because I was like, feel like we're going off a little and we needed a little bit of structure, so thank you.
With other people and they feel the same.
And so, you know, each section of the P O C D clearly has its own bunch of topics, and when they, you know, a lot, obviously, the P O C D is brought forward by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So an awful lot of what needs to be done also has to go through the Planning and Zoning Commission. So the first set of items that a consultant was hired for by economic development was to move forward with some of those economic development regulations. And therefore, one of the topics that's been very active in the conversations has been also farming. And but you can't do it all at once. You have to, you know, if one or two commissions has to work on things, much like the list for Conservation Commission, there's a lot of high priorities. Everybody has, each commission has to then kind of lead the boat on which priority is the one they're tackling in the chunks that you can tackle within the time periods everybody has each month.
So hopefully we'll.
Keep moving forward. Again, you guys actually
Right.
have,
Waterly, we missed.
so and the implementation committee is really the organizer and facilitator. Each commission or each entity throughout town are the action entities.
So you're saying
So-
there still could be some action in between.
There should be
Yeah,
action.
yeah.
This should, the implementation should actually be a more of reporting and making sure that this commission and this commission aren't working against each other, aren't doing goals that will create a conflict to the end and the desired goal in the P O C D. And I think that's where some of the, I'd have to, again, go through the P O C D implementation, deliberately, but things like getting the trails up on Connecticut Trail Finder, having better access, having better information on the websites, to create connectivity, as you discuss when you're asking about, making sure, and the one we're looking at, that you asked about today, about the sale of that property, the goal is to create connections, to, facilitate the garden and that sense of stuff. So each commission should at their meetings be looking at it. And I think it was at the last meeting, or no, not the special meeting. I think it was the regular meeting before that, if I recall correctly, I distributed kind of the topics that were for this commission, but we can do it again, and I expect we'll be doing it again and putting that package together so that it stays as a focus of the meetings. And a matter of what you want to chunk. And I'll take the lead from Guy on that when I write the agendas, if he'll remind me of what the topic is that may be appropriate each month.
Then we're to the commissioner comments and the communication. Anybody have anything? I've got a couple.
So I did just move the conversation about 680 Kensington Road in the way I'll do the minutes, I'll put that under commission inquiries,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
commission comments.
So I'm trying to think, since we met the last time, I ended up walking the trails with Hatchery Brook after the place. Everything looked good. There are a couple of spots on trails that are just, I think are gonna need some kind of work.
From the bike race?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, just, that they didn't cause it, that we start seeing that, you've got some areas where. There's just too much flow from storms and stuff, and it's starting to dig in and move soil and rocks and.
Eagle Scouts, right?
Yeah. So there'll be a few things like that, but yeah, they got really lucky as far as the weather.
Yeah.
And they were done, I guess, about 45 minutes before the torrential.
The rain
came. So if they had put it off, they wouldn't have been able, we had enough rain where, based on, things that they
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to do it the next day. Because there would have been too much rain in the 24-hour period, so. Just as far as, things that you observe, once again, Sunny Borders came up the property there. I know that they keep putting stone down for their truck entrance. But they're bringing, I don't know how many trucks a day,
But why?
yeah. And they're bringing trucks, sometimes every 10 minutes.
That's the
And-
housing development they do.
Yeah, they're gonna put 4 houses. Yeah,
Or five.
yeah, 4 or 5.
Right.
Maybe 5.
I think it's 5, but it might be 4. Yeah,
And,
well, one. Yeah, but I'm not sure if that's the only one on the east side, or if that's 2 lots. I haven't looked at the map in a month.
So
We did go out there.
with so many many trucks going through, it doesn't take too long before stone moves dirt, and when it's down the road. All going into crooked road, you know,
Probably using the size now, not the construction efforts or.
no, it's.
Yeah.
They're,
Gravel.
yeah,
It's gravel. It's
So-
hunky gravel, cause I walked through it,
yeah,
but it's, yeah, I mean, I'd say
yeah,
they're
Yeah.
good, you know, that the gravel that we typically
Yeah.
see at construction entrances, but it's degrading very quickly with where it's
Yeah.
because we get the complaints and we contact them
yeah.
and tell them they need to clean up the road, they need to to
They
to
have to keep- do they have
redo.
to have, barriers, like fabric or whatever.
Silt fencing.
So, yeah,
It
so
depends
they
on
have
where
to
it needs to, they have to have it in
That's
certain
fine.
places, but that really doesn't help the truck traffic. The trucks are going out through a certain area. And there is a lot of fill coming in, then they had some environmental reporting done on it as well.
Oh.
And they, I believe that came into the zoning officer. I believe we got that report.
So it's the
Before
truck
I went on
bringing in
vacation
fill.
a week ago and then I've had these other things going on. So, but I think that was in, I actually have to look into it by Thursday.
Sunny. Like,
I think that's part of the reason why, I think they're.
So they need to not cap, but they need to, well, so they're,
Yeah.
but they're bringing the houses in the design was to bring the main level of the houses up to Kensington Road level. So the site was quite dropped off there. So the front of the houses, the backs will be walkout basements at a lower level. And that is, we compared it with the town engineer to the grading plan and what they've brought in so far. We scrutinized the plan pretty closely. And then they, some of the lack of a better word, contaminants that were spotted are those that don't migrate through the soil, so they're supposed to be buried. And we got an explanation from DEP, someone from DEP, as well as I talked to another soil scientist who further explained the lack of not stripping or not, you know, there'd be different methods. You could strip, you could amend the soil by mixing it with clean soil,
Yeah.
or they're burying enough, but that is a contained area of the site that has that particular elements were found.
Cause they'll have to have wells.
Yes, in order to get their, you know, COs, they'll have to have positive test, you know,
Does everyone have?
affirmative test,
Orchard? Do they have-
well and septic. Those will be, I believe, it,
Pretty close. I mean, not every-
yeah.
There's water up to the. Railroad. No, I take it back. Yeah, there's, well, Elton Road is one of the lines, because we had that one that.
Out in the
We- gonna go over, yeah,
But that's quite a way north.
because, yeah, so, and that was to get to houses being built on the other side on Kensington.
Rock is.
Yeah.
I have to go get
Yeah.
insulin to my sister's. So I'm just,
Yeah, and
We're doing,
we're, yeah, and there's not, I don't have much more than, the only other thing I wanna, talk to Maureen real quick about, but, some of the things, I guess, kind of goes back with the POCD maybe, a little bit, but, I'm ready to start talking to some of the town people about what we would have to go through about parking, you know, other things about parking for open space.
Parking.
Yeah. You know, we talked about the one making it a little bit more official on Kensington Road.
Yeah.
Where they have the fence up now, but let's make that. I still wanna have a discussion with town staff about the, property and on Orchard Road for Blue Hills, the two. With the two buildings in the space there. And I don't know, I think that maybe. It's been resolved. I was hoping to talk to Carl and I'll get in touch with him. About the Spruce Brook Road access. Now there's access. It sounds like further in on Lamentation. And off of Lamentation, where they put the rocks up and.
So Stan Tech definitely town council decided to block that.
Right,
At
right,
the
but
end
now
of Stan
there
Tech.
was something in one of the emails I saw that said about. I think it was from Jim. About parking further in. Off of
It was something,
Lamentation. Yeah,
it was some
There's-
street parking.
yeah.
Street parking on Lamentation.
And
I didn't.
I mean, if you,
so I don't know if that fits or not, but, you know, if that takes care of. Most of the issue. Cause the other thing that I've been eyeballing is on, Pistol Creek. At the lower end before the, Spruce Brook. We've got property that goes up to. Town property that goes up to Spruce Brook. So it's on the same time,
Spruce Brook,
yeah, yeah,
but in the Pistol Creek property.
right.
It's-
Before, if you just go over the bridge, why can't we put a two car parking
Right.
and clear that off right there? And then
Who lives across the street?
no, but it's the house that has all the farm stuff,
Yeah.
it's the log cabin house.
Doing something with, is it disc golf there too? We're thinking more.
That's just
that.
I
Just a
think,
proposal.
I don't think they got
They're going back to revisit the plan thing.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
God knows what.
So, there is that parcel right there. I don't,
This
if you click
is all part,
on, the one straight across from the house on the,
this one,
that's all.
that's all Pistol Creek.
How about the small one in the left corner?
This one,
Yeah,
that's right at our
That-
bridge, I think.
right.
I sit with the town council.
So why can't we?
I
put-
think,
Why can't we put
Yeah.
something right there?
oh, this is the bridge, so they're gonna be doing a lot of work in this area.
Right, so if they're gonna be working,
And
there, why can't we, as part of that work? Level off a spot and put parking, and then you have a relatively short walk. Up the hill. To the entrance,
It was blocked off with the stone.
yeah.
that's over here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, wait a
No,
minute, it's
right-
this one. Nope, not that one, sorry. It's opposite Oak Ridge, it must be this. No, it's not that, I know it's not.
No, it's right off of the.
It's-
Street,
Oh, that's,
There.
oh, up that.
there it is.
There it is,
So-
That's where it
So
is.
that, you would have.
it was
that
opposite
distance.
Somerset, I was thinking it was opposite Oak
Well,
Ridge. This is blocked,
Yeah, walk.
but this is the footpath remains.
Yeah, but you can't park there.
So why can't we,
But you're.
There's
still-
on-street parking here.
They didn't even want to walk with that. Remember, they came and complained about it? Because they didn't want people walking in front of their.
Oh, geez.
yeah, but, well, people walk there, I mean, right now, the town council. Official plan is that you park up in the main lot,
I know.
so and then you got to walk.
And it's not safe to walk around.
Well, I think what they were
That was the
proposing
stupidest
was
thing they ever did.
come up with a designated walkway, which can be some,
Exactly, and
yeah,
they got rid of that.
right.
Because the neighbor didn't want people walking.
So one person will just,
Exactly. So I think what you're saying is great. I don't know.
I don't know if it'll, right, but I wanna have the discussion,
I think,
so.
it would be, a good path. My recommended path is if there's one or two commission members, including, the chair, obviously, that has some, thoughts on parcels, maybe we can set up with town staff a field trip and or meeting to look at the maps and kind of plot out what are the feasible locations to start exploring from the technical side of the
Yeah.
limited expertise that we can offer as town staff on what could and couldn't work, so that then we could bring the discussion to the next level with the town manager, town council.
Right.
But I would like,
Cause-
the
cause
town
I'm-
engineer, the PD, and, to have a little bit of a conversation. Let's identify some of these spots and set up a meeting,
Yeah,
so
'cause
I would suggest reaching out.
Something like that, where you just say, look, what can we, here are some parcels.
Right,
Is there anything that we can do? Here's some ideas. And then if it's something that is gonna potentially move forward, then let's do a field check and take a look and see what we were talking about. Cause I'd like to see us try to get some of this parking and better access to some of the town sites. And I know that, and that's why I will reach out to Carl, because I wanna see that I did just recently see something about, maybe, Maureen, if you could just
I'm sorry. Go.
scroll up from Stan, yeah, there's.
On
there's
limitation.
some kind of parking, maybe it's that triangle,
I think
Or
it's just on-road parking.
yeah.
My recollection is
Right,
it's
I think
on-street parking.
Somewhere that.
But like right through here, maybe is where there is a gate for walking, that's where they got some of the fire apparatus, some of the emergency vehicles were able to go in off lamentation, so it's probably in that area. There may be other areas, but I don't think there's any lots.
I think that's right
Available.
there.
can you?
That last two.
Here, at this one,
Well, you can't block the gate.
No.
Right.
But I think it was on road parking.
no, oh, down there, okay.
No, 'cause
Yeah, I was thinking it was up here because of the clearing, but
So I'll try to find out more about that, if that is a reasonable solution, and then. And then I won't necessarily push for the other. But,
Well, I think the other thing too is, I mean, it's so many, I mean. Not too many people know that if you go in that subdivision, sort of wiggle around.
Yeah.
You could get close enough to Stanton Road to take that fire access.
Hmm.
So I
Good
never
to know that.
got the impression that there's a lot of people that park for the access.
but I knew that, town's gonna be working on the bridge.
Yeah.
And I was going like, oh, that's parking.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
probably have a staging area.
Right, so, but I'm saying as, when it's, right, so if they're gonna clear off and work there, when they're done, I don't. think so. We
Like,
a small parking area, maybe 2, 3 cars,
Mhm.
so. It's open to see. Yeah, so that, I think that's all I had, nobody else had anything,
Other
so,
than the August meeting.
oh, yes.
So I did just pull up, that's why I pulled up the calendar that I had a second ago. And you did schedule an August meeting. I think I think if I remember the conversation correctly, it was, oh, let's just schedule them because we'll probably get rid of one in the summer, but we'll figure out which one it is when the summer comes.
We always schedule the August meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so then you decide if you wanna,
Conservation Commission meeting.
I second.
We want any kind of caveat if there's some big business. If there's something,
We always have a special.
yeah, we can just make it just a.
Windows, I don't know. Something so.
not. Given the fact that we haven't gotten any of the applications that I've been anticipating, I am anticipating, I've met with people or had inquiries about plans that we're expecting to come in, but they haven't yet. So, the likelihood that they might fall in that crack after your meet anyway, like not aligned with your meeting when they come in and when they get scheduled is a possibility regardless. And but that's a monthly, I mean, P and Z meets twice a month, you meet once, so there's a cycle that sometimes you miss applications because of that.
I'd say fine.
But we don't have, unless things came in today, nothing new has come into our office except for um,
So, have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll cancel the August meeting, and you know what, if there is something big, and we have something, we could still, if people are around, we could still do it on that,
thing.
and we do that, if we needed to.
I will point out, because I think I did just realize one that might have slipped through the cracks of your meetings. It may not have. You may have actually made comments on it, but on the Berlin Turnpike, the near New Park Drive, the 3 lots got rezoned. So you
Yes.
did talk about the rezoning and you made some comments, but the site plan is also before Planning and Zoning Commission currently.
Okay.
It was opened or
Yeah.
brought to the commission at the last meeting, and they'll finish it or presumably they had to grant an extension to continue it to this meeting, so. So that's on that. There is one thing I would like to bring up is the fact that the commission, and again, there's 4 of you here compared to the entire commission, but you did lose some very active members. And the anticipation of whether or not Carl is able to stay as active with the commission as he's been with regard to walking trails, checking things, etc. So maybe just inquiring for some thought on who else on the commission might be able to fill some of those voids if there are any. Again, we relied heavily on Carl doing trail walking,
Yeah.
looking at things when we're looking at grants, when we're doing other things, when we're working with behind the scenes, and it's a valuable resource, and it would be good to have multiple valuable everybody's a valuable resource. I don't want to give that impression, but feet in the mud people with hiking boots. So,
We need to fill the 2 spots.
Yeah.
and you have a couple of positions open, so that's also another.
Well, if we discuss, we should probably talk about the alternate positions as far as the ones that people can apply for.
Mhm. Yes.
Are we gonna move the one or two alternates that we have?
In order for alternates or anyone on a commission to change from an alternate to a regular member, you actually have to go through the application process through the planning, through the town clerk's office, and to town council. It's, a misconception by many, and that's why I know this answer. That if you're an alternate, you'd be considered for a regular position, you have to actually realize a regular position is up and apply to take the regular position and no longer be an
So the
alternate.
person we have now that's the alternate, maybe someone can contact him, just to let him know that it was.
Jason, that's
Jason,
Jason.
yeah, Jason
Right.
indicated that I guess Parks and Rec seemed to be a better fit for us.
Yeah.
And he's, so what happened to the other one? Yeah, two alternates.
He applied and became a regular member. So you only have the one alternate. Here's the vacancy on the screen is one regular member and one alternate
So you're
are the
saying-
two vacancies. That, I guess, someone's reporting.
What was the name?
And Brandon is applied to become a regular member and he got appointed to be a regular member. Yes,
Got it. I missed.
But Bill just leaves us.
I think he does work as staff to another town and I think he said that sometimes our meetings are conflict with his job meeting nights. Not always, but sometimes, so I think that's one of the things he said,
Yeah.
at a
The
meeting.
likelihood that, like you said, Carl was mentioning that he's probably
Right.
not gonna
Yeah.
continue on for her.
So the vacancy we
Yeah.
have, this down there is vacancy for.
I'm sorry,
He did not commit to the calendar year.
Yeah.
The vacancy right there is for a member.
that's a regular
Not-
member,
and then-
and then this one's for an alternate.
So, and Jason Pelletier is the one that's still on the fence, but God, I'm just getting.
Well, we just don't really know, we don't know.
At this point, if he decides he wants to, come and participate, that'd be great.
Because you could be on Park and Rec.
And he can be,
Because you're
on
both.
that, but,
It
But-
depends on
but
who's
I-
starting.
both of our alternates were told about the vacancies and if they wanted to move up. And,
Huh.
and Brandon chose to do that and Jason did not. So that's why he is still as an alternate and didn't fill the regular vacancy.
So the regular vacancy can go to any part of your.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
the,
wide open.
it's
Yeah.
wide open.
And the other vacancy is just, deer. And then if Jason decides to leave, then we have that one.
Yeah.
Gee.
Yeah, so we,
Yeah, no, I know.
yeah, so.
That's how I started.
Again, there's growing pains. We've just noticed it on a number of commissions where you have people that have been on commissions for upwards of 20 years, some 30, 35, and they've, begun to say, "Well."
Yeah.
So, and it's happened in a number. I think it is one of those, growing pains of a town, because towns generally have these surges of when they grew, when they built, when you had, new blood in town as far as new subdivisions and whatnot, and it's pretty much a natural progression.
Wow.
That you
I'm
started?
hitting 11 years.
I think they came in and filled Jim Matulis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when.
Wow.
You were here already. Right.
Yeah, because I was here when Jim was on.
Okay.
really good friends with Irene, so I.
Yeah. I ran into Irene
Oh, you did?
recently, yeah.
Wait, and times.
Yeah. One of his daughters is same age as
Oh,
one of
okay.
mine, so, yeah,
Yeah, cause
So-
one lives in England, I think, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So she's gonna try.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't talk to her, I saw her at Hartford Stage,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was offering.
Oh,
So.
Yeah.
I had a job to do. Oh,
Isn't that wild?
all right,
Motion to
you
adjourn.
did, yeah, we didn't do a motion.
Just that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy for me.
I had to learn.
Yeah.